Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul, and I am a nerd, and you are here today at the, gosh, is it April already? It seems like I start every coffee pot webinar that way. Gosh, is it April already? 2015 coffee pot webinar. And today in our coffee pot webinar, we are talking about the difference between regular multi-user Tabs 3 and PracticeMaster, Platinum, and Platinum SQL. Those three things cause a little bit of confusion. Hopefully we will alleviate all of that, or at least point you in the right direction to get those questions answered. But before we start, a little bit of housekeeping. This thing right here is the GoToWebinar control panel. If you are still seeing this, then that means you have not clicked this little button that looks like an arrow pointing to the right, because that means collapse this. When you click this button, this will slide right off the right-hand side of your screen, and all that you will see remaining are these buttons. This button at that point will turn into an arrow that points to the left, because if you click it again, this will slide back onto your screen. Why would you want it to slide back onto your screen? Why? Of course, because you have a question and you're shy. If you have a question, you can type it here, remembering, of course, to hit the send button. And when you hit the send button, Patty, our humble yet temporary moderator, will recognize that you have a question. She will interrupt me at the opportune time and ask your question on your behalf. Now, I've said it before, I'll say it again. My mother could start a story and 20 minutes later have told you 18 other stories but not have finished the first story. I'm kind of the same way. So if I get off track, or if I'm not answering the question that you are asking and I'm not understanding what you're asking, just keep typing questions here, keep remembering to hit send, and Patty will keep me on track on your behalf. Now, if you're not shy, you can always press this button that looks like a hand with an arrow pointing upwards in front of it. That means raise your hand. And so if you'd like to raise your hand, Patty will again notice that you've done that. She will interrupt me at the opportune time, but instead of reading your question, she will simply unmute your microphone and let you ask your own question. Now, that line of communication, that channel, will remain open until I have answered your question. So again, you can jump in, you can interrupt me, you can get me on track, you can ask additional questions, but you cannot eat Fritos or Doritos. Those are the two restricted foods during that time that you are unmuted. When you're done, Patty will mute you back up, and you will be able to continue eating your Fritos, Doritos, or other crunchy and salty snacks. So without further ado, let's talk about Platinum. What is this Platinum thing? Well, if I go out here and press the magic buttons and go over here, I will get to a page on STI's, or Tabs 3 PracticeMaster's website, and you can get there by simply going to this link, or if you're lazy like me, you just type tabs3.com, you click on products, you click on Platinum versions, and you get there all the same. Of course, you have to actually click on Platinum versions or it won't take you anywhere. And this sheet right here tells you almost all you need to know about the differences between regular Tabs 3 and PracticeMaster, Platinum Tabs 3 and PracticeMaster, and Platinum SQL Tabs 3 and PracticeMaster. Now, let's go through some of these differences, and then we'll talk about how the pricing is different. First off, Tabs 3 Connect. Now, I have to be very clear about this, and I'm not going to show you Tabs 3 Connect. That's not what this webinar is about. There are other webinars on our website, both in the Coffee Pot webinar section and probably also in the Tabs 3 or PracticeMaster virtual user group section, that deal with Tabs 3 Connect. But I will show you what it is. Tabs 3 Connect is a piece of software that runs on any internet-connected device. I am not, even though I'm running on the same computer, I am not running Tabs right now. I am running an internet-enabled app-like application that lets me look at matters, clients, contacts, calendars, costs, and fees, and I can add costs and fees. So for instance, I can go into fees and I can choose a client either by typing a name or by finding one on my most recently used list. My, that's a long pause, isn't it? I'm just letting the silence hang in the air. Maybe something's wrong. Maybe it's not. I've been having internet connection problems this morning, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of that. But this is one of the functions of Tabs 3, is the ability to add time. You can see your calendar and everyone's calendar. You can, which is different than just syncing with your smartphone. I can see my calendar and Mary Jo's calendar all at the same time if that's what I want to do. You can't do that by syncing with your smartphone. I can see Matter Manager. I can see contacts, not just mine, but all of them, so that I can see the contacts that normally would not sync through to my phone. I can see people's calendars that normally would not sync through to my phone. I can look at all the Matter Manager details from PracticeMaster, and I can enter time. You can also enter costs. I don't see many people doing that. And they do have the ability to go into the client screen, which is a little bit superfluous because you've already got access to that information through Matter Manager. So Tabs 3 Connect, in a nutshell, is the ability from a tablet or a phone or an internet browser to go through the internet to get to your data to be able to look at matters and enter time. That's mainly what people use it for. Now, if we go back to this list here, there are a couple other things you get with Platinum. That's not the only thing. And I do want to be very clear. Platinum includes Tabs 3 Connect if you have Tabs 3 and PracticeMaster, because as you'll note, the functionality involves both those programs. There's a Matter Manager from PracticeMaster. There's the ability to have fees and have them go back to tabs. So if you don't have tabs or you don't have PracticeMaster, you don't get Tabs 3 Connect. However, if you just have tabs and you just want to enter fees, there is the ability to get something called Billing Tabs 3 Connect, and that allows you to get into your data from a remote device to add fees, and only that functionality. It doesn't give you the Matter Manager, obviously, because you don't have PracticeMaster and wouldn't be needing the Matter Manager, and that costs $60 per user per year. So if you just have tabs and you get up to Platinum, you can still get that remote time entry capability for all the users that need it by paying only for those users an additional $60 per year. If you have Tabs 3 and PracticeMaster, you don't need to pay that because you get that functionality as part of Platinum. If that's not confusing enough or that's not clear enough, you choose. Like I say, go back and look at the Coffee Pot webinar from our archives that describes exactly how Tabs 3 Connect works in much greater detail than I have time to cover today. Other things that you get with Platinum: auto recovery. That means that if your power goes out or you have an unexpected intermittent network glitch at the very moment that you're updating statements or doing something crucial that shouldn't be interrupted by an intermittent network glitch or a power outage, as you know, if you don't have Platinum, that usually means you've got to restore from a backup. When you go back in, you get fatal errors, everything is messed up, and until you restore from a backup, you won't get back to where you were. And the problem, of course, is that you may not have a backup that was made right before you did that, and so you're going to lose some data. With auto recovery, the system is actually capable of telling when you start a crucial task that may get interrupted and cause data corruption, of taking a snapshot, and then being able to recognize whether or not that process completes properly, and therefore being able to roll you back to where you were before it got interrupted without your having to do anything. That's huge. It's not very sexy. It's not very exciting, but it's huge because it means that, and we all have them. First off, there's power outages. Nobody ever goes without having at least one power outage a year, and where I live, it's we have 40-mile-an-hour winds today, and we have clear open fields, and my power may go out any minute. But then again, the other thing is your network. Your network's not perfect either. Some are better than others, but it will occasionally have an intermittent glitch where it drops data and interrupts the process like this, and that can be detrimental. Now, hot backup, which is the next thing that we're talking about that comes with Platinum, is very cool, because the reason people usually don't have a backup to go back to from right before they started that update statements is because if they were going to make a backup, they would have to kick everybody out of the software. And usually, especially if you have PracticeMaster, it's very difficult to kick everybody out of the software because that's where they live, to enter time, more importantly, to also journal emails and see information about contacts, phone numbers, email addresses, review notes about a file, a matter. These things are constantly needed, and so it's hard to kick people out for 10 minutes or so to back up your data. With Platinum, you don't have to do that. You can do a hot backup, a backup that continues to allow people to use the software while it's running. And that's kind of huge. Even if you're going to do something that requires you kick them out, you can still do a hot backup before you kick them out and kind of minimize that. What happens is if we go into PracticeMaster and tell it that we're going to, I'm just going to close up everything so I can actually run this process without it giving me a problem. Me and my multiple windows. If Mary Jo were here, she'd give me a hard time. If I go into maintenance and renumber, or maybe utilities and reindex files, it tells me right up front, I suggest you make a hot backup. Would you like to do that? The last one took 29 seconds. Now, we don't have a huge data set, so our hot backups are very quick. Most of our clients have a bigger data set, and these hot backups take a little bit of time, sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes. But nonetheless, if you say yes, it will allow you to do it while people continue working. Now, that's not to say that the process that you're starting isn't something that's going to kick people out. The reindex is something that people would have to get out for, but if your backup takes 15 minutes, you can do the backup and then kick people out and do your month end or your clear month totals or whatever it is that you want to do, and not worry about kicking them out during the period that the hot backup is running. Even better than that is that when you go to update your statements a couple times each month as you're doing your billing cycle, that's something that is crucial that you do a backup before. You don't have to kick people out to update statements. Now you won't have to kick them out to do the backup. eNote is kind of cool. Patty, you're in PracticeMaster, aren't you? You don't have to. You can just say yes. Patty wanted to. Would you like to unmute yourself and say hi, Patty? Patty's in PracticeMaster, so I'm going to go into PracticeMaster, and I'm going to open up my client file, and I'm going to pull up. She doesn't have it open, but she's going to. Yeah, I do. I would like you to. Patty's going to go open PracticeMaster, and I'm going to say, gosh, we need to send this client their fee agreement. Have we done that? Well, Patty would be the one to do that. So I have this feature called eNotify, and I have another feature over here called eNote. They're kind of the same thing, but eNotify will send a neat little link along with it. So I'm going to send this eNotify both to myself so you can see what it looks like when Patty gets it, and I'm going to also send it to Patty. And what you'll notice is this is a little instant message. It's not an email. It's something that's going to pop right up in the middle of our screen because I've sent it to myself. You'll get to see how that works. Patty gets to get this notification right away, answer my question. I will get her answer right away, and I get to very quickly get an answer to my question without sending her an email and waiting for her to get to that, or without having to track her down because she's not at her desk. And I think she's going to be back in a minute. This will be waiting for her. I'm going to say, did we send the fee agreement? And I'm going to send it. Now, one thing that you'll notice is that because I use this eNotify button, the client record that I was on is attached to this. So I won't have to say, did we send the fee agreement to Purdue Law Offices? Or did we look up this client and then tell me if we sent the fee agreement? Because what Patty's going to get is this note with the client record attached for her to simply click on and say, oh, yeah, them, yes, we did. Great for calendar items. If you have a calendar item that you're looking at today that says we have a deposition this afternoon with Dr. Smith, and you're thinking, I thought that got rescheduled, you can e-notify Patty while you're on that calendar record. And by using e-notify while you're on the calendar record, it attaches the calendar record, and all you need to say is, didn't this get rescheduled? And Patty will get a copy of the calendar record or a link to the calendar record with her when she gets the notify. So let's send this. And it's going to pop up for me because I also sent it to myself. So this is a kind of a copy of what Patty received. Patty's going to reply and say, of course, you told me to, didn't you? And I'm going to just demonstrate that this is what she's seeing, and that if I click this link to client record, it opens up Purdue Law Offices. Now, that wasn't all that spectacular because Purdue Law Offices was already opened up behind us. But if Patty was in the middle of something else, she'd be able to go to right to that. Yes, we did, Paul. That's Patty's response. So that's e-notify. We also have just plain old e-note, and e-notes appear down here or up in PracticeMaster, and I can do a new one. And I can say to Patty, lunch, question mark. And Patty can tell me whether or not she's ready to go to lunch. Or Patty can take a call, or the receptionist can take a call, and can interrupt me while I'm on another call and say, the call you're waiting for from Dr. Smith is here. Shall I tell him to hold? And I can very quickly reply back and say, yes, please. Now, what's also cool about this is basically, as you've probably guessed, this is like instant messaging on steroids tied to your practice management system. But beyond that, when I go into my e-notifies, I can actually journal them. I can actually save the whole chain of communication to, by going into my e-note list and journaling them just like I would in the email, I can save them to the record. So if I've had a long conversation with my paralegal about what we're going to talk to Dr. Smith about this afternoon, and she's done a little research and gotten back to me with this, and I've asked her another question, and she's gotten back to me with that, I can then take that whole chain of communication and tie it to the file for whatever matter Dr. Smith is testifying at a deposition for. So it's not just instant messaging, it's the ability to attach file records like clients or notes or emails that are journaled into PracticeMaster or calendar items. It's also the ability to take that communication and store it with the client. Let's go back to where we were. Accelerators. Accelerators mean that your filters will be really, really fast and your reports will be really, really fast. Now, this is one of the reasons that people get to Platinum. The hot backup's nice. The e-note's kind of a neat feature that some people use really, really a lot and others don't use at all. Auto recovery, as I said, it's not sexy. So people don't really tend to think about it, but it's one of those important things. Accelerators means that your reports and your filters, meaning by a filter, if I go here and pull up my client list and go to the list and say that I want to look just at P calls. Not P calls, P group. These are people that I'm calling on a weekly basis to bother. It will build these filters incredibly fast. So if you have filters or you're using smart tabs that are using filters or you're using filters over here, and when you click on a filter, it takes a long time to get your list to have it go from searching to filtered or searching and totally showing everything, then you have slow filters. It's inherent. It's just going to be that the more data you get in there, the longer it takes to filter. Same thing for reports. Now, how fast? Well, 30 to 45 times faster. Not percent faster, times faster. So if you have a report like a cash receipts report is one that gets run usually on a daily basis, so that you can do your deposit if you're in the billing department from the payments that you've entered. That sometimes in a big firm that's been running tabs for a long time, that can get up to where it takes 2.5 hours to run. People start it and they just minimize tabs and go on with other things and wait for it to get done. We've seen situations where reports that take that long to run go down to taking 3, 4, 5 minutes to run. So that's huge. The filters, if you have a filter that takes 50 or 60 seconds, that's a long time to wait when you're sitting there trying to get to what you're trying to get to because you're managing a case, because you're practicing law. If that can instead take 1 or 2 or 3 seconds, that's huge too. So finally, log off users. This is huge to me. Let's say that, and it's huge to people that need to do these things. Let's say we go in here and we tell it we're going to do something. Now, before we do it, it's going to make me close my tasks. So let me actually close them all. I'm going to close my, this is my to-do list, and I also think I have a timer window open. So I need to close all these things. And once I do, I can go into, let's say, reindex files, or maybe I'm going to go into file maintenance to do something. And so I've already told everybody to get out. And of course, they've all exited the software at exactly the right time, right? Wrong. File maintenance started up, go in here, and it says, well, you need to get people out. And Mary Jo didn't get out. So I'm not really going to do this. But I can go into log off users, and I can type a note that says, quick planned maintenance back in 5 minutes, because that's going to appear on the client, on the user's, Mary Jo's screen. It's not really, because I'm not going to do this. And you can tell it how many minutes to give them to get out of the software. And so if I were to click this right now, it would send a message to Mary Jo that says, quick maintenance, Paul has requested to log off because of quick maintenance back in 5 minutes. And she would be able to acknowledge that message, and then it would count down in seconds to when it's going to log her off. So that if she's sitting there, she can acknowledge the message, she can get out of PracticeMaster or Tabs or whatever she's in, and my process will start. And when I'm done, I can tell her that, that I'm done, and she can go back in. If she's not sitting there, after the 120 seconds elapses and counts down on her screen, it will automatically, and here's the key, safely log her out of the software. Safely. Because if I wasn't using this log off, I would get a different thing that would allow me to reset users, and I'm trying to remember where this is. I would instead be prompted to reset them or just give them the list, and I supposedly would go around and get them out of the software myself safely and securely by closing the software on their machine. But all too often, people simply reset everybody because we told them to get out and they didn't get out, and so tough, I almost said it, too bad, we're going to reset them, okay? And that's bad. That's bad because it can cause data corruption. If they're in the middle of saving a fee entry, you could corrupt the entire fee file and lose it and have to restore from backup. So the logout users is a huge feature for people that need to do things that occasionally need to be done at a time when nobody else is in the software. It allows you, especially in some of our larger clients where I'm doing this frequently to reindex files or to do searches, to configure search settings or maybe to alter the file structure. If they've got 3 floors of people, it would take me literally half an hour, 45 minutes to get everybody out if they didn't get out when they were supposed to. So that's huge. I think it's huge. Again, it's one of those things that doesn't come into play very often, but when it does, it's huge. Finally, we've got the Exchange connector. The Exchange connector means that when you are syncing your calendars and your contacts, or one or the other, with your Outlook so that they can appear on your phone or your tablet. The Exchange connector is a much more sophisticated, higher level type of connection. If you don't have Platinum, or if you have Platinum but you don't have the Exchange connector set up, it's free with Platinum but you have to set it up, then the communication between your PracticeMaster and your Outlook is something that happens when the programs are running on your machine. If they're not, then it's not happening. So if your computer is turned off and you're in court and your legal assistant has just made an appointment for next Tuesday at 10:30 to meet with a client, and you don't have the Exchange connector configured, you won't see that until your computer gets turned on and your PracticeMaster and Outlook are loaded, and then the two of the programs talk to each other and that information goes over to your phone. So if you are standing in the courtroom and 10 minutes after your legal assistant makes that appointment, you're asked by the judge, are you available next Tuesday at 10 o'clock? You're not going to know that you have a meeting with a client at 10:30. With the Exchange connector, that communication, instead of being between the two programs running on your machine, now takes place at a much higher level between a special Exchange user and a special PracticeMaster user that are always there, always ready to talk to each other. And so that appointment should show up on your calendar literally seconds after your legal assistant makes it. So in that scenario, when you pull out your phone and say, oh, I do have an appointment with a client next Tuesday at 10:30, and you can then move on and talk to the judge about scheduling a different time, knowing something that you wouldn't have known otherwise. That is what the Exchange connector is. Now, very quickly, there are also a couple advanced reports. There's an accounts receivable by working timekeeper and detailed accounts receivable report. Both of these show working timekeeper information, which is something that's huge. If you run an accounts receivable by primary timekeeper in the software the way it is now, that's not Platinum, then you're going to see that for Bob's clients, not the work that he did, but for his clients, he could be able to collect this much money if he called them. But that doesn't mean he did the work. So if I have a client that was billed $1,000 and they haven't paid it yet, and I'm the primary timekeeper, it's going to show up on my part of the accounts receivable report. If all the work was performed by Mary Jo, then when we run the same report by working timekeeper, that $1,000 is going to show up on Mary Jo's accounts receivable section. Because there it's by working timekeeper, and Mary Jo did the work, even though I'm the primary timekeeper who's in charge. I'm doing the quote thing. You can't see me, but I'm doing the quote thing, in charge of the case. So currently, the software, without being Platinum, will not do a working timekeeper accounts receivable report, but Platinum will. Now, very quickly, what's the difference between Platinum and Platinum SQL? Platinum SQL can be even faster. Platinum SQL takes advantage of a different set of memory on the server. That's the big thing. And if you've got something else that's looking to your software for reports or for information using something called the quote-unquote, I'm doing that quote thing again, the ODBC drivers, then that data access will be faster, just like the reports were faster coming from regular to Platinum. So usually that's not something that people are doing. But Platinum SQL will be able to provide external access to your data 35, 45 times faster than it could in the Platinum version or the regular multi-user version. The reports are still faster when you go from regular to Platinum. It's the external access to the data. But the big difference between Platinum and Platinum SQL is that Platinum SQL is a 64-bit piece of software that runs on the server, and Platinum is a 32-bit piece of software that runs on the server. I know that's nerd talk, but what it means is the Platinum SQL software can access a lot more memory on your server, meaning it can put things into memory so that it runs faster. That's the bottom line. Platinum SQL, when tuned properly, will run faster. So that's a lot to digest. Let me just do one more thing here. I'm going to take you to a little picture I drew. Now, I'm a nerd, so my pictures aren't all that pretty. But this is your standard software. You've got 5 pieces of software that all run together. They integrate together. There are icons to go from one program to the other when you're in each program. So people consider them to be one program, but they're all 5 separate pieces of software if you have everything, if you have tabs, PracticeMaster, APGL, and Trust. Once you go from that to Platinum, you add something called the, got ahead of myself, the server software, the Platinum server software. It's a piece of software that runs on your server. And you upgrade these things. So what does that mean? The price goes up. It's more expensive for each of these pieces of software. Plus, you also have to buy this. So you're buying this, and you're paying an upgrade price for each of these packages that you might have to get from one to the other. What happens when you go from Platinum to Platinum SQL? The only thing that happens is you pay more money for the server software. So to reiterate, you have multi-user software and you go to Platinum, you're going to pay for a whole new program called the Platinum server software, and you're going to pay an upgrade price for each of the pieces of software that you currently have. If you already have Platinum and you go to Platinum SQL, then you simply pay an upgrade price for the Platinum SQL Server software. If you want to go from regular to Platinum SQL without going to Platinum first, well, you're just going to pay a little more for this. You still have to buy a new thing called the Platinum SQL Server software, and because it's the SQL Server software, it costs a little more than that. How much? I have no idea. Well, I do. I mean, this is usually a couple $1,000s, and it's a couple $1,000s more to get to the Platinum SQL Server software. How much are the upgrades? I don't really know, because it depends on what you currently have, whether it's on maintenance, how many timekeepers you have, that sort of thing. And I can't tell you exactly how much this costs, because it depends on how many connections you need to run the number of people that are going to be accessing these things. So just keep in mind, and this is where it gets, this is the simplified version. You have to pay upgrade pricing for these things and pay for a new piece of software, whether you're going from the old-fashioned multi-user to Platinum, or you're going from old-fashioned multi-user to Platinum SQL. If you already have Platinum and you want to go to Platinum SQL, then you just pay a little bit more for this. How much? Call me or call STI, and either of us can look up your account, talk to you about what you need, and tell you exactly how much it's going to cost. I can't really do that without knowing where you are on maintenance and where you need to be Platinum-wise. So that's it. I do want to take you back out here. I want to take you to our website, which you can get to, by the way, by simply typing attorneycomputersystems.com. And once you get there, we have the ability for you to see all the videos that we've done, including all our virtual user group meetings for Tabs, PracticeMaster, and World Docs, our Coffee Pot webinars, which is what you're attending right now. Mary Jo has a video series called eBytes that's a bunch of short, very succinct tips that usually last 2 or 3 minutes each. And we have something called the Paul and Mary Jo Show, where Mary Jo or I will take a much broader topic and kind of really dig deeply into it. And those usually last about 15 or 20 minutes. The Coffee Pot webinars, for instance, if we go there, anything that's live, if you go to it, in a minute this will change to registration for the May series. Anything that's live, you'll be able to register for the next one. You'll be able to see the old ones simply by scrolling down and seeing the description and clicking on the video. We have content that goes back years and years, and we literally have hundreds and hundreds of videos on our website ranging from all sorts of different topics. You can scroll through, you can see what's most recent, you can browse through the different video series, and you can also use our new search technology and our newly updated site to go straight to videos about a certain thing, like perhaps emailing statements. So keep in mind that all this content is out there ready for you to use, and it's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I worry sometimes about the people that I talk to on the phone that say they spent all of last night watching our videos. But nonetheless, if you want to do that, it's there for you. Everybody have a good rest of the afternoon and a good month, and we will see you next month at our Coffee Pot webinar series. Thanks much. Bye-bye.